Scene is Brescia, 1989. But for the fashions, it could be entirely different here. For it was in 1957 that the last Mille Miglia, as a road race across Italy and back again to Brescia, took place. For several years now, there has been a reenactment of those golden days of road motorsport. These were the days of Ferrari, of Maserati, of Pegaso, of Mercedes-Benz post-war, but also Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo, OM, MG, and a whole host of other manufacturers who competed in the famous Italian road race between the wars. The scrutineering takes place once again in Brescia as it has done in previous years. Indeed, the city has welcomed this as a major tourist attraction. Here, closed Ferraris of the early type, the predecessors of the GT and the GTO, are to be seen. And they come in abundance from all over Europe and from America. The XKSS that once belonged to Steve McQueen and was sold in his estate is a runner in this year's event. Jaguars, indeed, both XK120s, C-types and D-types were regular competitors in the Mille Miglia, as were DB3S Aston Martins. But the event was dominated pre-war by Alfa Romeo and to a large degree post-war by Ferrari. This is the Discovolante Alfa Romeo, seen in the Mille Miglia in 1953. As an Italian event, it's not surprising the most numerous of the entries were the Italians, with 149. But the United States were represented with 41, Britain with 35, Germany with 20, and cars indeed from all over the world taking part in this fabulous event which brings the most wonderful cars back again to the roads of Europe. Indeed, many of the cars competing had taken part in the Mille Miglia when it was a road race across Italy. But so for that matter had some of the drivers. Historic sports cars have an appeal not just to the general public at large, but to enthusiasts, and some of those enthusiasts come from all walks of life. From a 1936 Alfa Romeo to a 1950s Ferrari of the type which dominated the racing in the 50s here in Italy. The sport in the 30s, 40s and 50s also had its princes. Competing this year, Prince Michael of Kent, seen together here with Victor Gauntlet of Aston Martin. And Victor Gauntlet's partner here, Peter Lovanas, in the Invicta which is to take part. Luigi Villaresi, veteran Italian racing driver, and Olivier Gendebien.
Stirling Moss here for the 1989 Mille Miglia reunion. You are the man that won the fastest ever Mille Miglia. What's it like driving this type of event?
Well, I must say, last year I enjoyed very much. I mean, I had the car that I raced, and it was absolutely stunning, I can tell you. We had to push it through the towns, obviously, because it's a racing car, and I had to be careful with the clutch, but I really enjoyed it very much in the open road. It's enjoyable because you meet a lot of people you know, because of the enthusiasm of the crowd here. I mean, the Italians are so crazy for cars, and to see this enthusiasm, it infects you, and therefore to me, it makes it a very worthwhile thing.
Now this is a reunion event, but it is a form of competition. Will you be trying to win it?
Yes, it is a form of competition, but I have a feeling one has to have an Italian stopwatch and quite a few Italian things to do it. Well, obviously one tries, but I don't really know what one should do. I think they're going to give us the rules and regulations, and we'll do our best, but I don't really anticipate to be amongst the winners, no.
Now you say you have to have an Italian stopwatch and Italian rules, but you are the man that won the fastest ever Mille Miglia, and you are a celebrity here. Do you think that would apply to you?
I think it would, yes. I think that when I won it, it didn't matter what nationality you were. I mean, they really were so keen for anybody who had a go that it was a totally different race to any other. I mean, it could only happen in Italy. I can understand why it was stopped. I'm surprised it wasn't stopped before. It was a race that made me nervous. But having said all those things, it was the greatest event of its type in the world, there's no doubt.
From Moss through Villaresi to Regazzoni.
Why do you think the Mille Miglia is so important in Italy? Why so many people come and watch this special event?
But it's important not only in Italy, because they have a lot drivers come from all the world. It's important because I think it's the only race in the world where we can enjoy to drive, because all the nation participate. We can you can really go fast in the normal road, and the atmosphere is so beautiful. I think only in Italy we can make this kind of atmosphere, because the participation is big, and then the weather, the town, the village where we cross is a beautiful part, historic part of the Italy, and it's not just the pleasure to drive, but to see this area where it's really beautiful.
A star in Formula Atlantic some years ago is expatriate American Max Spitzley, with the C-Type Jaguar being pushed through before us here. A 1953 car without the louvered bonnet, indicating that it would normally have started life on SU carburetors as a 3.4 litre. The course wends its way round the original course of the Mille Miglia as far as possible. It is no longer a road race. The competitive sections take place over the passes that formed part, however, of the competition way back in the 50s, 40s and 30s. They also take in some of the measure racing circuits, with, of course, an overnight stay in Rome, a totally different matter from a full 1,000-mile bash over some 24 hours of the original event. The Monza Ferrari, a car with a big four-cylinder engine whose history is steeped in the Mille Miglia, to one of the earlier V12 cars of the early 50s. Notice the similarity in body style to that of the AC Ace, developed from the Togero. This particular car coming from El Salvador and finishing second overall in the Caracas Bogota race in '57 and winning the Grand Prix of the President of the Republic in 1958. But what are they here for? Let's look back at the real Mille Miglia of the 50s.
Towards 9 o'clock, the tension begins to mount. The flag of Brescia is raised, and off goes a Fiat Topolino. It's nearly 3:40. Time for Venezian to start in his Oscar. By tradition, Castagneto wears the bowler hat he wore to start the first Mille Miglia in 1927. 2 minutes behind is Stirling Moss in his Jaguar. The team manager of Mercedes, Neubauer, is here just to watch. Beyond Aquila, they climb up to the Sella di Corna. Ravenna, and here's Giannino Mazzotto. The Ferrari has broken every record with an average speed of well over 100 miles an hour for the first 180 miles. Rossolini is going steadily, although Tom Cole is about to pass him. He's about 15 minutes behind the leaders. Miles on, Aquila, and the Oscars lead in the 1100 sports class. There's 20 minutes between Venezian's leading Oscar and the Fiat Armini of Brandy. And as Fangio pulls up to the Alfa pits to refuel, another Alfa arrives. Kling is fastest of all by 40 seconds. Alfas are first and second at Rome. All the way, the clouds line the road as we try to steady our camera against the bumps. And here's a lorry. And that's George Abacassis. The Alfa Romeo Fangio leads. Kling is out, and Fangio has taken his place. The fastest car still in the race has now nearly caught up with the Ferrari of Paolo Mazzotto, which left Brescia 19 minutes before the Alfa, and is now less than 2 minutes ahead. Paolo Mazzotto is now up in third place with his Ferrari. The Alfa Romeo is here. Fangio using all his skill to make up for his lack of intimate knowledge of the roads. Fangio is trying hard, but he won't know if he's going fast enough to hold his 4-minute lead until he arrives at Siena Control. Beyond Florence is the Futa Pass over the Apennines, the last great obstacle before Bologna. and close behind the Lancia comes the Ferrari. The last chance for Giannino Mazzotto to use his knowledge of the mountains to gain those 2 vital minutes. Fangio also knows there's not a second to spare if the Alfa is to stay in first place. Bologna, and the Ferrari has broken the record for crossing the Futa, a record that has stood since Biondetti made it in 1938. And it's the Alfa. Fangio's had trouble with the steering and has now dropped 3 minutes behind the Ferrari. And here comes Giannino Mazzotto to win the 20th meet.
"36 years later, the same piece of road, and car number 1, the OM Superba of 1927, sets off in the hands of Rodriguez and Buriasco. 6 cylinders, 2000 cc, 80 brake horsepower. And this car, in fact, wishing to remain as number 1 in this race. The reason why? It was the winner in 1927. OMs also came 2nd and 3rd in that event on that year. Headlights ablaze, it makes its way through the crowded streets to set out on the event. Rain already beginning to fall. An earlier car is this 1927 Alfa Romeo, a 3-litre 6-cylinder vehicle specially developed for the Targa Florio. This took part in the race in 1924. 1937 saw this Maserati take part, and 1933 this Alfa Romeo, driven by Paul Grist. The Orlandi Rocca Fiat Topolino Special took part in 3 Mille Miglias, 1947, 1948 and 1950. In 1955, the BMW Isetta took part in the race. 2 narrow wheels at the back, 2 wider wheels at the front, and exceeded the speed actually recorded by the 1924 winner of the event. After the Second World War, BMW engines found their way into a number of cars. Among them were the Veritas. This all-female mother and daughter crew taking part in a 1948 version of the little-known German car. While this is a 1950 Italia, partnered by his wife, Desenzano. On into the night, with its police escort, and of course a number of support cars splitting up the competitors, like the 356 Porsche. In the main, these are 1930s competitors, with Aston Martins in and among the Maseratis and the Alfa Romeos. Here a pre-war Mercedes SSK of the type that won in 1931. Pouring rain in the morning, and Don Holt's 32 Monza Alfa. Coming along now is the Stenguellini, driven by Mantovani, one-time Grand Prix driver who lost his leg in Rome in 1955 and now is a priest. The Mazzotto brothers, Vittorio finished 2nd in this Ferrari in 1954. Following the Astoria Stenguellini is the K3 Magneta Victor Gauntlet, the ex-Lord Howe car, featured by Lorani in his book on the Mille Miglia, and this glorious Speed 6 Bentley here in the wet, a superb sight. Followed by Bianchini's 52 Ferrari, driven in 1953 by the 55 winner Eugenio Castellotti on his Mille Miglia debut. The Czechoslovakian motorcycle-engined Jawa making its Mille Miglia debut, and it's dwarfed by the next car along. This is the 1952 Chrysler coming into view now, which was driven by Paul Frere to a class victory in 1953. This gear-bodied Ferrari, an ex-Jack McPhee car, finished 5th in the 52 Pan American Road Race. The 1952 Mercedes-Benz that Klenk and Kling finished 2nd in the Mille Miglia in. Van Holzman and Loy in the 2.5-litre SS100 Jaguar of 1938, and the ex-Works Antonio Brivi Felice Trossi Alfa Romeo. Here we watch Cabayashi with the Type 43 Bugatti, a car that was never successful in the Mille Miglia, but the Japanese successful in Asian journalism. And Paul Grist with the ex-Scuderia Ferrari Monza, in beautiful condition. An earlier Alfa here, a 1927 car. Equally superbly turned out, this is the car seen in pictures in the 1927 event on the Futa Pass with Enzo Ferrari waving at it. A 4.5-litre Meadows engine Lagonda. And behind another Bugatti and a much later Alfa Romeo. Then it's another 1932 Monza going through. Real Mille Miglia style. With the weather clearing, 201, the ex-Mozzotto Ferrari, really pressing on. But hood up, against the elements, is another of the Lagondas. Here he's followed by an Alfa and one of the Fiat Specials with some damage to the front already. Another Fiat engine special was the Volpini. This is a 1946 example, blasting past our camera car here. 91, on the other hand, is the 1939 Alfa Saloon, 20 out of 54 built. This is a 1933 Le Mans Aston Martin, and this the 1935 version of the car which won its class. Hausfeld and Dunholt's 32 X-Works Monza, followed by the very Fraser-Nash-looking BMW of 1948, the Catura body here. Peter Agg substituted this Bugatti for the Alfa Romeo that he was originally to drive. The Mondial Ferrari, and some interesting little Fiats, the second of which is one of the famous Lotteria cars, built in the 30s for the Italian lottery winners. A superb little 1949 Lancia Pagnelli, and the Tickford Healy, reminiscent of the car that Donald Healy drove in 1948 with the Riley engine. An equally beautiful and rare Lancia Ardea, the Bristol that was driven by Larani, and Aldington to 13th place in 48, and an Alfa Romeo police car of the time. After the lady on the bike, two very interesting cars. The 1937 Fiat-engined Gordini, one of the first of Amedeo Gordini's creations, and the Alfa Maserati Frete, first driven by Giorgio Scarlatti, and a rare combination of an Alfa chassis and a Maserati engine. Italian hospitality is well known, but this is taking it too far. The champagne is reserved for one competitor. It's removed, of course, so that the police don't see it. Back comes Dorio Campagna Stanguellini, the Mille Miglia museum keeper, and also back comes the champagne, now that the police have gone away. And this is the ex-Jack McPhee 4.1-litre Inter-America Ferrari that finished 5th in the Mexican road race in 1952 with a Silverstone Healy behind it there. Getting its name, of course, from where the car made its debut. Through also comes an A6 SSG Maserati, the very favourite of Italians at the time for the Mille Miglia. And here at Passaro, a Talbot Lago that ran from 36 to 51, 25 Grand Prix, 56 international competitions and 4 Le Mans, and a 2.5-litre SS100. Paul Tavia's Ferrari has found the going rough. How has Eric Carlson found it?
So far, extremely well. That is only a 750cc engine, you know, but it's easy to stick with most of the cars on the twisty road anyway.
Now this is a type of a rally, Eric, so you are the man most likely perhaps to have a chance of winning.
Now, this type of rally I've never done before. And this, if we win or if we have good results, is the navigator, not me.
So you need a little bit of snow to get a first place?
You need a good navigator, and I always had a good navigator.
From Eric on the roof Carlson to Ari Vatanen with the roof on, getting away with a Mercedes. And just listen to this 3-cylinder 2-stroke Saab as Carlson gets away. The C-Type Jaguar of Steve Earle, the ex-Joe Kelly car. He's shouting for Roma, but he's got the Apennines to traverse first. The A6 GS, the ex-Moss 1.5-litre Maserati, and a 250 Ferrari of 1954. The supercharged Bugatti is stranded with overheating. But through comes a Porsche blinding us with his headlights, followed by a Tour de France 250 Ferrari. Then it's Moss with the 300 SL Mercedes, the 1955 winner, holder of the record for the race. And Ari Vatanen, who came back to rallying after that terrible accident. And then the most famous car of all, Baker with the Type 166 Ferrari that won the Mille Miglia in 49, the Targa and Le Mans in the same year. This is Stanger, together with his daughter in his own little 53 car, and the DB3S Aston Martin of Fowler. The 57 300S of Pilkington, which Scarlatti finished 5th in, followed by Vitali in the ex-Andresi 13 built. The first 250 TDF, Jean Debien's third place car of 57, and the company that made this little car, the Fiat, took over the Ferrari factory, which made the 1952 winner that Mozzotto drove. The lightweight 300 SL Mercedes that Fangio drove as a road car in the year he finished second with the SLR. Olivier Gendebein's name still on the side. The first Alfa Romeo that ever ran at Le Mans was in this year's Mille Miglia, as the roads dried up. Certainly conditions improving at this stage. 8 cylinders, 2.3 litres, capable of about 100 miles per hour. Contrast it with the 6-cylinder 1750, the much smaller engine. 38 Delahaye that ran at Le Mans. Again, a beautifully turned out car with a long competition history. The crowds of the 1980s just as passionate about their motorsport as the crowds of the 50s, as the little Fiat goes through. This, the pre-war version, and this one, the 8-cylinder post-war one, as the rain begins to come down again. Then it's the turn of the 1933 TT winning Alfa Romeo, as we reach Rieti. From there, it was on to Rome for the overnight halt. Crews doing well, Favero with the Mercedes and Bianchini with their 225 Ferrari. Calmonti also going well with the A6 GCS Maserati. The weather hopefully to be kinder on the second full day of the event. And indeed, Italian sunshine greeted the competitors as they set out on the return leg. Here 129, the little Stanguolini again of Astori and Somenzini. A superb Mille Miglia type Ferrari 4.1 litre goes through, followed by the Veritas of Frau Farbend and Frau Runga, mother and daughter of course. That's followed by the 2.5 litre pre-war Jaguar. And then a car that very often was fighting with the Jaguars in their post-war form, the DB3S Aston Martin, ex-Roy Salvadori, ex-Peter Collins, once David Brown's road car. The Gilco Manaki Bimatore, a completely unique car, twin-engined, now 4 litres, originally a 2-litre Grand Prix car, and a DB2 Aston Martin of the type that finished 11th back in 1951. And the Pegaso showing signs of damage at the front. A 250 Tour de France 284 once again. And the school welcomes the Mille Miglia for 1989. It also welcomes Jackie Eakes, here riding passenger in the 300 SL Mercedes. Legendary sports car champion is followed by another Pegaso, this time the saloon version, and an A6 SSG Maserati, one of the very earliest cars that did 3 Mille Miglias in its history, and indeed competed in the Sebring 12-hour race as well. 2 litres, 6 cylinders. As he accelerates away, Dudley Mason-Styring and his wife Sally go away in their Ferrari, a 166. This particular Porsche won its class at Le Mans in 1957 and also at Sebring. Umberto Maglioli, however, finished 5th in the Mille Miglia in a car like this in 1957. This Austin Healey 100 finished in 23rd place in the debut of the cars in the Mille Miglia. 3 started, and this is a rear-engined Alpine Renault. The Delage of 1927, the only one still running. The Pininfarina-bodied Cisitalia of 1950 goes through, as does this Alfa 1750, a post-war car that ran in 1957, and a 4-litre Talbot with full-width bodywork, and the passenger hanging on here for dear life. Most Italians took part in this event in Fiats like this, the 1100. By now, the cars are nearing Siena. Most of them still running well, in spite of the arduous conditions. Not, of course, as arduous as the race itself, for it was here, going into the passes, that the Mille Miglia could be won or lost. A traditional Siena welcome for the competitors in the 89 Mille Miglia Historica. Some close-ups now of some of the competitors and their cars, watched by this enthralled crowd here in Siena. The Mercedes, similar to the car with Caracciolo and Werner aboard, which won in 1931, the SSK, followed by one of the earlier Alphas, number 12. Peter Agg with a Bugatti once again, and the superb Delahaye, which won at Le Mans and various other places, the ex-Farina 1937 Alfa Romeo. And a sight also of the 1961 world champion Phil Hill an avid enthusiast for historic cars here, competing in the Mille Miglia once more. Number 16, another enthusiast in the shape of Nick Mason, drummer for Pink Floyd, as the Delahaye comes into control. All is Type 37 Bugatti, due into control now. And he's followed by that very rare Gordini, one of the few pre-war cars built by the Sorcerer. One of the Monza Alfas now goes through. State-of-the-art for 1932. And this is Schilbeck's 328 BMW. Notice the central throttle pedal on Nick Mason's Alfa Romeo. The steering column appears to be giving trouble. Through goes the 250LM of the Steigers, and the Dunhull Alfa almost ready to proceed again. The Lodge family have the 1951 winning car in the hands of Villaraci, the first of the 340s. And the Alfa is back now in the contest. This is the rebodied 1954 Monza Ferrari again. And this is a Lancia, similar to the car in which Ascari won in 1954. The Alfa now running well. And a rare sight of a Lotus 11 of the type that Gregor Grant drove from start to finish. An Oscar behind him, product of the Maserati brothers after they left their own firm, and a Monza Ferrari of the later type. Driving single-handedly, as did Ascari. The leading Mercedes on the home run. Jean de Bien's name on the side, and he's in the passenger seat. And that car is followed by the Ferrari, in which he finished in third place in 1957. The ex-works Mercedes, the 1952 car, now comes through. Contrast its lines and its aluminium body with that of the leading car. And the very rare XKSS, the D-Type, fully road-equipped, spoiled by the fire at the factory as regards production. An F40 Ferrari almost collides with the ex-Banditti Jaguar Special. The Brescia finish of the 1989 event, and the smoky ex-Castellotti Ferrari reaches it. Falfaretti, Favero and Gendebien in the Mercedes win, from Bianchini's Ferrari 225, Calmonte and Fermonato's A6G Maserati with a Scagliati body. In comes the Cisitalia, and to the prize presentation with a glittering array of cups. For the historic Mille Miglia, a tremendous event. Phil Hill chats away here, as does Jean de Bien and the Contessa Maggi, whose husband was one of the originators of the event. Moss receives his plaque as the first non-Italian finisher.
Each year it gets better. I think only in Italy we can make this kind of atmosphere.
That it was a totally different race to any other. I mean, it could only happen in Italy.
Could only happen in Italy.
It's a great experience. It could only happen here in Italy.
Atmosphere here is very good, and I mean, you cannot organize a thing like this anywhere else but in Italy.
Well, it's one of the few occasions when you can use a car like this with the support of the police force.
The Mille Miglia Historica goes from strength to strength, well established now in the calendar.